It's rare that a codependent person is codependent all the time. So there will be particular contexts and particular people with whom we are codependent. So there are trigger contexts and trigger figures, authority figures typically. How that plays out is a neurotic desire to avoid any and all conflict, not conflict perceived in the other, but conflict perceived subjectively. So we become hyper agreeable. We say yes to things that we should not be saying yes to. No becomes a verboten haram word. It's like no's not on the table. Whatever they say, I'm going to do it. And then we hypervigilantly and proactively seek for ways to serve, because it's not enough that we're slaves. We want to be super slaves. We want to be the best slave that master has ever had. We are kind of facing like a zombie apocalypse of narcissism. But the broader problem, I think, is actually, if everybody in a society is a narcissist, nobody's a narcissist. Sam frequently uses the example of Nazi Germany. And I'm like, yes, Nazi Germany, but imagine being on the inside of Nazi Germany. Narcissistic psychopathy doesn't exist. You're just a good Nazi. You're not a narcissistic. You're not sick. You're only sick if you show empathy. You're only sick if you don't violently believe in courageously dominating the lands around Europe and killing everybody. Then you're sick. You're the sick one. Narcissism is still a relevant term because I do think there's still a minority. NPD is still a minority. So then the majority is codependent. Well, then how does narcissism play out? Narcissism can only play out if there is minority exploiter and a majority exploited. If we're all refusing to say no, and we've all abrogated to, because codependency is an addiction, it becomes addictive. We become addicted to abrogating the responsibility of our own authenticity and abrogating the responsibility of our adulthood. So if you are looking around, as many of us are, we look at our politicians, we look at our systems of governance, we look at the corporations, and where are the fucking adults? Who's in charge here? Many people have made the mistake, I think, of saying that's narcissism. They've all fallen prey to narcissism. That's part of the puzzle. The bigger piece of the puzzle is no, they've fallen prey to codependency because we're all now entrained to abrogate our responsibility as adults. It's much easier in a certain sense to live as a slave. A slave doesn't make choices. A slave doesn't have the burden of responsibility. A slave doesn't have the stress of agency and regret, because whilst we're capable of regret, it's not our fault. Nothing is our fault. Yeah, this is where you get the problem that you saw, which is I'm a martyr, I'm blameless. Oh, the narcissist this, the narcissist that. And you just look at people and you go, really? You had no say in this. You didn't make a pact with the devil. You didn't trade anything. You got no benefit whatsoever from this relationship. Not me. And I'm like, come on now. Let's be fucking...
Have a word with yourself.
Have a word with yourself. Let's not abrogate this responsibility to be adults. It's hard to be an adult. And we live in an infantilizing environment that wants us all to be useful idiots.